So you have been the star of a series on History Channel that we've talked about, Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. And I know we got into that on episode 150 based on the first season and what you were doing and some of your surprise there. But I've always enjoyed your thoughts on the UFO phenomenon because I think you're a realist about it. You're more data driven. You've expressed that you believe there's almost a statistical impossibility that there is not intelligent life out there. It's just a question of, are the things we're seeing reported as intelligent life here actually what they're reported as, which I think is really fair because there's also been a lot of speculation, righteously so, I think, by a lot of people, that the things we're seeing are products of super advanced intelligence related technology, not always necessarily our own, but yeah, certainly DARPA or CIA at the front end of that. So, having done season one, what do you want? Are you on working
We've
on season three?
season two is already live, and I think is aired,
Yep.
and season three scheduled.
Okay. So number one, has your opinion changed or moved at all on that? And number two, what are you guys going to be focused on and looking forward to in season three?
So I really appreciate where you're going with this, and I also really appreciate that you are so accurate and specific in the words that you use to describe my relationship with the phenomenon. Because what I have seen personally is that there is some strange shit that happens that doesn't have explanation. It doesn't have explanation in like normal civilian terms. It doesn't have it defies explanation in known science and known scientific terms. Equipment gives results that don't make sense according to how the equipment is supposed to work. I mean, and then of course on top of that, there's a whole world of secrets that we don't have access to. But even as we take this to my network of FBI, CIA, NSA, police, even as we expand and ask questions in my own personal network, the feedback that continuously comes back is that they are also stumped. So there
Mm.
really is something strange. There really is some kind of phenomenon that is consistent, is measurable, is witnessable, and is happening in our planet's atmosphere, right? And sometimes that phenomenon happens underground. Sometimes that phenomenon happens on the surface. Sometimes that phenomenon happens in the sky. Now, after being through 2 seasons of investigating high strangeness with the Skinwalker team and the Beyond Skinwalker effort, I am more convinced than ever that there is something happening. I am not any more convinced that it is alien in nature, but I am more and more confident that it does defy science as we understand science today, right? Energy signatures, transient physical evidence, like somehow you can see gaps in GPS data, gaps in geospatial data, gaps in energy returns. Like it's the strangest thing, man. And nobody can explain it. Experts in their field can't explain it. Technical experts with the equipment can't explain it. Physicists, astrophysicists, like scientists can't explain it, but it happens and it's consistent, not everywhere, but in certain places. So why the hell is it that when I'm in a strange ranch in southern Colorado, I see the same weird shit that I see in the mountains of Nevada, but I don't see either of like those two things are consistent. But then when I go to someplace in Tennessee, we don't see shit.
Mm.
How does that happen? How is it, how is it that I can go one city over, I can go one national park or one state park over to where the terrain is exactly the same, granite rock to granite rock, but energy signatures are different, geospatial data is different, magnetic anomalies are different. How does that happen, right? And why does that happen? I don't think that it's alien. The proof that I'm seeing is not that it's alien, but the proof that I'm seeing is sure as hell that it is fucking weird. It's fascinating, and it shows the untapped advantages that a weapon system could get if it could figure out this science. And I gave
Mm.
you a lot right there. I don't know if
Yeah.
it all made sense, because
No, it
in
does.
my head I'm reliving the investigation. And season 2 goes through a lot of that. And anybody who watches season 2 on History Channel or streams it Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, you're going to see exactly what I'm saying. There's so much strange shit that happens in our country that we don't even understand, that defies the laws of science as we understand them, the laws of physics as we understand them. And it stumps not just me as a CIA officer, but a whole range of experts that I've talked to.
Gun to your head, would you say it's super advanced like DARPA technology?
Uh, I don't know if I would give DARPA the credit, but I would say that the 60-40 of what we're seeing is is either advanced technology, or, this was really crazy, old, super old technology that we found a way to do better. Balloons, um, sea drones, unpowered passive devices, right? That kind of stuff.
What do you make of all the patterns, though, of people who have around the world who have claimed to have witnessed something? And again, you hear a lot of people now, they'll come up, they'll say, I'm an experiencer. And maybe somebody is, but the vast percentage of people is probably something different.
CIA believes that all people are born with a spy secret superpower. For some people, that means they can win deals. For others, they can spot liars. Some can even seduce lovers. I built a free 3-minute test to help reveal to you exactly what your secret hidden superpower is. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, take the test, and start using your spy superpower to stay ahead of 99% of people.
But when you look at, say, the patterns that James Fox, who's been on the show, has created with the history of it since the 1940s, be it from China, Russia, United States, Australia, Africa, South America, all over the map, where they report the similar things: small creatures, similar beady eyes, similar colors, craft described in often the same ways, a form of telepathy that happens for people that have encounters of the third kind. That's the right term, right, Alessi?
The fourth kind.
It's fourth kind, right? Where it's like everything all together. You know, I guess there's a possibility. Well, there's certainly a possibility some people are lying. But when you see all these different people from so many different places who, before the internet, when these things are happening, had no ability to communicate with each other, what do you make of that?
So there's something very real there. There's two things that I've been able to actually see for myself and measure for myself. First, experiencers are having real experiences. From their point of view, with their 5 sensory organs, right? Their eyes, their nose, their ears, etc. They're having a very real experience. But all a sensory organ is a series of electrical patterns to the brain. So just like we can simulate if you touch freezing cold water on a hot day, the first sensation you actually have when you stick your finger into the cold water is a burning sensation, because that's how the body
Yes,
interprets the
that's
sensation,
right.
right? Same thing happens if it's a freezing cold day and a lukewarm pool of water. As soon as you touch it, it feels super hot. That's just an electrical impulse. So it's not that what you see is really what you see, or what you hear is really what you hear. It's that your brain is interpreting electrical signals and translates those electrical signals into sensory perception. So what's wild to me is a lot of the experiencers that I've spoken to have had very real experiences, but that doesn't necessarily mean that what they experienced actually happened to them the way that they experienced it. They may have been touching cold water on a hot day, and what they experienced was burning. So that's what's so fascinating to me, because one of the things that we have absolutely been able to measure is that in areas where highly strange phenomena have happened, energy readings are all over the map. Electrical energy readings, magnetic energy readings, gravitational energy readings, all over the place. So we really could, like, for all intents and purposes, you could stand in one place and you don't smell anything and it feels like a 70-degree day. And then you stand 6 feet in a different place, and now all of a sudden you smell oranges and it feels like a 90-degree day. Right? Like, that's the impact of energy on your body and on your brain and how your brain interprets events. So when you think about true experiencers, if they're just temporarily co-located in an area where either a extraterrestrial phenomenon happened or a very terrestrial phenomenon happened with high energy readings, the experience could be the same. See what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. I think that there's still a little bit of an open-ended argument as to the exact how many data points across how many years and how many places, like just statistically from like an anomaly perspective,
For sure.
how much that lines up. And it makes you think because, people's heads go to, oh, are these different governments trying to put out misinformation and stuff like that? And that's a fair question to ask. But then you look at the people who are coming out and some of them smell government-y and other people don't, you know?
It can be both. That's what I'm saying. It can absolutely be both. It's not an either or argument, right? It can be terrestrial and natural, and it can be government related. Because what has the government always done? When it was like the 1920s, the government found where nature created forests, and then it started cutting down trees. It went to the place where nature created gold reserves and gold ore, and then it started mining operations. So why would we not think that if the government found a vortex of energy that could have benefit to aeronautical aviation technology or weapons technology or free energy, right?
Yep.
Whatever, fusion, fission, whatever.
Yep.
If they were to find one of those locations, wouldn't they go there? Wouldn't they also try to cover it up? Wouldn't it also be a place that has its own measurable differences against every place else? And wouldn't people in the surrounding area also have experiences that were related to the incredible amount of energy or the unique geology of that location?
Okay.
So I am more and more convinced that there's a terrestrial explanation for what most experiencers see. But here's the thing that's so interesting, especially if there's a terrestrial explanation for it, intelligent life from another planet would most likely identify those anomalies here when they did a scan of our planet. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
Yes. I agree.
Why would, if you were just, every time we fly in a plane, we do this. You fly over something. You fly over the flyover states. You look out your window. You see like rocks and desert. Not that interesting. But as soon as you fly over a city and you see the lights and you see the glow and you see the infrastructure of the roads, now it's more interesting. So you're flying over a wide patch of Earth and you're choosing what to focus on based off of something of interest in the landscape.
Yeah, I've always, and I love playing devil's advocate on everything around this topic because it is so unknown and there are so many possibilities here. And one of the things I've always brought up is I'm like, first of all, we can't put ourselves in the shoes of a highly advanced intelligent civilization who knows shit that we don't. That's number one. But if we could at least accept the fact that they just know a lot more and then use our imagination to say, so they could probably time travel or crazy shit like that. I've always wondered how they wouldn't have simulated all these things to happen if they're true, like these different sightings. Here's what I mean by that. People are like, oh, well, if they're happening all over the place, why everyone's got an iPhone? How come we're not catching it up close or something like that? And I'm saying maybe when you see, for example, the Zimbabwe incident in 1994, where this was in the middle of the brush out in Zimbabwe, specifically by an international school where there were a bunch of 6-year-old kids playing, and that's it. Maybe an intelligence advanced civilization would have simulated, ooh, we want this one to crash or land there or whatever so these 6-year-olds can see it and we can play, Sims with how that affects what they say to the rest of the world and how the world views the potential phenomenon as like a psychological experiment, if you will, as opposed to having the same craft land in the middle of fucking New York City where 7 million people see it all at once and they're like, oh my God, they're here. You understand what I'm saying? Like, isn't it possible that if they're so powerful to have all these possibilities, they don't necessarily crash? It's more like it could be planned out as a simulation.
I think it is. I think anything is possible. But one of the things that is also becoming increasingly clear to me in my Beyond Skinwalker investigation is that one of the major flaws that happens when we talk to experiencers, one of the major flaws that highlights to me that an experiencer is not as genuine is when they become hyper-focused on the fact that an alien life is interested in human life. Why do we think that an advanced civilization of aliens would give two shits about human beings?
You're making the Neil deGrasse Tyson argument.
Why? Why do we think that they would care about us? We're inferior because they're super advanced and civilized, right? We don't make up a large contingent of what the Earth is.
What do you mean by that?
Like human beings aren't as prevalent as, say, trees or water or oxygen
But
or nitrogen.
We're way smarter and way more
They don't
interesting.
not to them. Why do we think we're interesting to them? What makes you think that you're more fucking interesting than a dolphin to an alien?
Well, let me ask you this.
Because we make cities?
If we were able to fly over...
Ants make cities.
If we were able to fly over a world back 6,000 years ago with pre-Babylon, pre-Egypt or whatever, and see these ancient civilizations, you don't think that our current society, if we had the ability to do that, would be interested in those people who are, in most degrees, completely not advanced to us?
I think that there might be an interest, but does that mean that's what you went for?
What do you mean?
If we created time travel, this is a great mental experiment.
Yeah.
If we created time travel so that we today could go back in time to the past, if we spent the hundreds of trillions of dollars to invent that technology, do you think we would spend our time researching people? Or do you think we would spend our time and money mining resources or planting seeds that we would then cultivate, in the future? We would find some way to make something much more valuable than fucking watching people.
But that's...
Anthropology and tracking people, look, biology is one of the least funded sciences in the world right now. People just don't care about temporary living creatures. Zoologists know that. That's why they struggle all the time to get funding. Anthropologists know that. That's why they all end up as waitresses, right? People don't care about... There is no value in understanding a civilization or a human being or the biology of a human being or how they all interact. There's no scalable value there if you're going to take on the expense of launching some sort of widespread mission or campaign or operation to explore something new.
Now, what if, though, instead of it being an advanced civilization from somewhere else, what if, due to dimensionality that we currently can't understand here and now, right now, these are actually future humans who are the spawn of us, who have figured out a way to circumnavigate dimensions and time to come back and observe us. They are essentially, therefore, observing the seeds that became the tree that they are. Is that not...
Why would they do it? Why would they do it? Why would they come back to...
What if they could change the river of time?
That's not observing. That's not observing.
But you're there doing that. It's not that you're observing, but that's why we see them, because they're here trying to do that.
But you're interfering. That's a possible what if. It could be some future version of us that's coming back and meddling in the past to create a future scenario or an alternate timeline or whatever else. Absolutely. All of those things could happen. If anything, one of the results that has been very consistent in the research that I've done with the Skinwalker Ranch folks is that there is a question of time. That actual devices that measure the passage of time respond differently in these various areas where there's energy anomalies.
Can you translate that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll give you the simplest example in the world, right? Two stopwatches set with the same standards of the same make of the same model. One sits on a table in an area that has no anomalous energy effects. One is attached to a balloon that floats up 5,000 feet into an area where there is an energy anomaly. And when you bring it back down from the balloon and you put it side by side, they read time differently by 7 seconds.
What the fuck is that called again? There's a name for that. I know exactly what you're talking about. There's a name for that. We talked about that on another podcast. I see what you're saying.
So if that can happen in a 3-acre area of space by being 5,000 feet different, to be 7 seconds different, the only place where we've measured that kind of time lapse is the difference between being on Earth and being in space moving at speed. And even then, it's only a few seconds, right? So how in the world does that happen here on Earth in an area of strangeness?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
No explanation for it. But it highlights that time, or the tools that we use to measure time, can somehow be affected, whether it's electrical signals or whether it's something else, whether it's somehow atmospheric or mechanical or who knows what. I don't have an explanation for it, but I've seen it, and I've seen it multiple times in multiple places. So again, if I was the CEO of a company that developed a time machine, and I had the chance in the future to go back in time, all I would think about as a human being is, how do I make this successful politically, economically, financially? There'd be some justification other than, I really want to go back and observe human beings. I really want to go back and observe dinosaurs. No, I want to go back and I want to, I want to identify an area where there's massive coal reserves that I know are going to turn into massive diamond reserves by right now.
Which in the defense of what we're discussing right now, we're talking about the same ends but via different means potentially. Is that fair to say? Because you're saying in that way they'd still be here, but they wouldn't give a fuck about us.
Right.
They give a fuck about this. And
Right.
I'm saying, all right, maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. Maybe they do give a fuck about us. But either way, they're potentially here.
Correct. It could be. That is a solid what if. I think that, the idea that intelligent life came back to see us, solid what if. The fact that it's human beings in the future coming back to see us, solid what if. There's a lot of what ifs that are fairly solid, right? But it's when you start to dig into the why is what makes it fall apart. And when you start to think that the reason they came back was to observe us, that why really falls apart. Because if you're an alien civilization and you're exploring the universe, what's so interesting about human beings? Not that much. What's interesting about the planet as a potential resource pool to allow you to continue to expand your expansion across the universe? Much more viable. Just think about how human beings go into look at farmland. We go to new ranches and new swaths of land thinking about what we could build there using it as a resource. We don't think about the field mice that live there and the ants that live there and the trans-migrating birds that go through there in the fall.
The trans-migrating birds.
We don't fucking care about that shit. We're like, there's 35 acres. I could turn that into a parking lot.
Eminent domain. No, and again, people don't want to hear some of the things that guys like you will say on this. And some of that's also just because of your job title, to be honest. But like, you got to look at this with some logic. And even if I'm not buying some arguments, you have to realize this entire topic is quite literally a hashtag, we don't know what we don't know.
Yep.
So you can't sit here and say, well, it's absolutely got to be this, or, well, they would absolutely think like this. We don't know that. We can look at the data we have, and that also, I mentioned it a few minutes ago, but this is a topic that people have thought about forever. Like if you look at ancient history and stuff, they think about, oh, what's up there, But in pop culture per se, it was more of a culty topic, or like underground topic, if you will, forever within America, and then that narrative really started to shift to a more mainstream, if you will, attitude towards it in 2017 because Christopher Mellon was able to legally walk out of his job at the Defense Department and give information that he was legally allowed to give to the New York Times, makes this whole story about UFOs. Then guys like the former head of the ATIP desk, Lou Elizondo, come out. They talk about this stuff. There's a few things there too. And then you eventually get to David Grush coming out, who, came from the Air Force background and had access allegedly to all this information that was highly classified about potential sightings or things that were recovered. Again, it's not like he brought out the proof of that, but discussed at length the files that he allegedly saw. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, on the one hand, let's say this was an intelligence op. And let's say they were covering for technology they didn't want people to know about. That makes sense to me. But are there other possibilities that I'm not thinking of besides like, oh, it's actually real and they're out of the goodness of their heart doing this? Are there other intelligence-related things that they could be doing that for as a cover that you can think of?
You mean the whistleblowers?
Yes.
Any intelligence-related reason why they would be sharing the information?
Yes, to cover for something besides what I'm thinking of, which is like advanced technology they don't want us to know the government has.
So are you saying that the whistleblowers are orchestrated, not genuine?
I'm saying if they are. I don't know.
If they are. So the way I see your Lou Elizondos and your David Grushes of the world, most likely if they were part of a sensitive program, they were in a very compartmented piece of a large sensitive program. Okay. I have worked with people who have been assigned to Area 51. I have worked with commanding officers who have been given commands over experimental locations. And it's so heavily compartmented that even the commanders don't know the things that happen under their command until after they are there and after something is so relevant that they have a need to know about the thing that they're commanding.
Right.
Their job is really just to make sure that super secret room number 1 is funded and has staffing and has security protocols in place. You're not allowed to actually know what's happening in super secret room number 1 because even though you're the commander of the building, you don't have that need to know. So it's so heavily compartmentalized. Yes. So if they were involved in a sensitive program, they were probably part of a highly compartmentalized column inside of a larger program. So when they see what they see, there's so much more that they don't see. So then when they don't have a context for what they're putting together. So when they come out and they blow a whistle on what they did see, there's all sorts of stuff that they did not see, that they did not have access to, that they're essentially assuming or defining or whatever else, right? But they didn't have access to it. And that's by design. So they could believe that they were part of a program and there were other things going on that they did not themselves witness, but they did witness this one piece, and that could be what they're sharing. They could also be they could be believers themselves and be overstating or overblowing their own experience.